There is a particular cruelty in the way many women leave men. And it's rarely in the act of leaving itself, but in how it unfolds. A man gives years of his life, his time, his energy, his loyalty, and often parts of his very identity to the relationship. He builds his days around her, folds her into his dreams, and finds comfort in the belief that his sacrifices are not in vain. To him, love is steady and dependable, something you water daily, something that grows because of consistency and devotion. He assumes that what he feels is mirrored in her, that if he is anchored, she is too. But what he cannot see is that while he is reinforcing the foundation, she may already be loosening her grip. And when she finally decides to leave, it is rarely with softness, rarely with gentleness. Instead, it feels abrupt, cold, and surgical, as though she has removed him from her heart with the precision of a blade. The cruelty comes in the withdrawal that precedes the goodbye. She does not storm out of his life in a single moment. She pulls away in fragments. The touches become lighter, the laughter shorter. The eyes that once sparkled at his presence now drift somewhere distant. He notices the change, but he doesn't want to believe it. He tells himself she's tired, stressed, or distracted. He clings to the idea that love once spoken and shown is permanent. But she has already begun building a distance between them, a distance he feels but cannot name. This slow fading is like a man bleeding from an unseen wound. He feels weaker, less alive, but cannot find where the blood is spilling from. And then the moment arrives. It could come through silence, through cold indifference, or through blunt words delivered without tremor. To her, it is a release she has prepared herself for. To him, it is an execution he never saw coming. He hears the words, but they do not register, because only days ago she was laughing at his jokes, kissing him goodnight, holding his hand as if he was her world. Now, suddenly, she stares at him with eyes emptied of affection. Eyes that once lit up at his touch, but now pass over him as though he is a stranger in the room. That contrast is unbearable, because it forces him to confront two realities that cannot exist together. The woman who adored him and the woman who now dismisses him are the same person. This is why it feels less like rejection and more like erasure. She doesn't simply leave his life. She takes with her the meaning of everything that came before. He begins to question every smile, every whispered promise, every moment of intimacy. Were they real? Or had she already been drifting while he remained tethered? The betrayal lies not only in her leaving, but in the deception of her silence. She let him believe in security, let him keep investing while she was already preparing to exit. It is like watching a house collapse that he thought was made of stone, realizing too late that the foundation had been crumbling for months. For him, it isn't just the loss of her, it's the collapse of his sense of reality. He thought he was building a life, but she was quietly unbuilding it. He thought he was planning a future, but she was planning an escape. And when she finally speaks, it feels brutal, not only because of the words, but because she delivers them with a calmness that suggests she has already rehearsed them 100 times. While he stands in shock, she stands in conclusion. He is only beginning to bleed, while she is already healed. The cruelty lies not in the fact that she left, but in the way she made him feel secure right until the moment she decided he no longer mattered. One of the darkest truths men eventually come to realize is that women often leave long before they actually leave. By the time the words are spoken, the emotions have already drained out quietly, visibly, like sand slipping through a glass. She has rehearsed the conversation in her mind countless times, tested her courage in silence, and detached piece by piece until there is little of her left to offer. To him, the announcement is a thunderbolt from a clear sky. He is blindsided, struck down by something he never imagined was coming. To her, it is old news, a decision already lived through privately. That difference in timing creates a cruelty sharper than anger, because while he is only beginning to drown in grief, she has already learned to swim away from it. Her detachment doesn't appear suddenly. It's in the gradual way she withdraws affection, the way her eyes no longer soften when he speaks, the way her laughter no longer spills easily in his presence. It's in the excuses, the shorter responses, the quiet walls she builds without telling him why. He feels something is wrong, but he interprets it as temporary. something that can be fixed with effort, patience, or a grand gesture. He doesn't realize she has already left him in her heart, that what he is trying to revive is no longer breathing. When the final words come, her calmness feels brutal. She isn't grieving with him because she has already processed it. She is simply stating what she has known for months. The cruelty deepens in the way she strips away empathy in order to carry out the leaving. Once she was the one who held him when he was broken, who comforted him in moments of despair. Now she withholds even the smallest ounce of compassion. She convinces herself he doesn't deserve it, that if she softens, she might weaken and get pulled back in. So she closes her heart, shuts down her tenderness, and delivers her words like a verdict instead of a confession. For him, that indifference is worse than hatred. Hatred, at least, shows that he still matters enough to spark emotion. Indifference feels like annihilation, like being erased from her world without leaving a trace. What makes it even more devastating is her tendency to rewrite history. To ease her guilt, she paints their love as smaller than it was. She begins telling herself and others that he wasn't what she wanted, that she outgrew him, that he was inattentive or controlling. She magnifies his flaws and diminishes his sacrifices until the story makes sense to her. For him, this feels like betrayal piled upon betrayal. It isn't enough that she is leaving, she also taints the past they shared. Every memory he cherished is recast as a mistake in her narrative. It leaves him questioning whether any of it was real, or if he had simply been living inside a story she was already rewriting while still by his side. For the man, this is a cruelty deeper than the leaving itself. It isn't just losing her. It's losing the meaning of what they once had. It's not just the end of their love, but the denial of its existence. And that denial cuts so deeply because it doesn't just end the present, it poisons the past. He gave his heart and faith, but in the end, she walks away as if it was all nothing. And for him, there is no greater cruelty than being erased not only from her future, but from her memory. The cruelty of her departure sharpens most in its timing. A man often imagines that if a relationship ends, it will be in the wake of obvious storms, constant arguments, visible distance, or irreparable mistakes. He never expects the ending to come when he believes everything is steady, when he is building plans for a shared future. That's why the blow lands hardest when she leaves, not during the struggles, but during the quiet. While he is saving for them, she is saving her feelings for someone else. While he is planting roots, she is packing her escape. When the moment comes, it's not just the collapse of the relationship, it's the collapse of his entire reality. He thought they were aligned, but in truth, they had been walking to different paths for months. What makes this timing so cruel is the preparation she often does in silence. Women rarely leave without a parachute. Whether it's another man, a close circle of friends, or a new lifestyle waiting to welcome her, she usually has a landing place. And so, when she steps out, she does not crash, she lands softly, almost gracefully. For him, it's the opposite. He is blindsided, broken, and left scrambling in the wreckage. He is wrecked while she appears radiant, mourning while she moves, stuck while she thrives. To the outside world, it may look like she is stronger. But the truth is, she has been preparing, quietly rehearsing, while he remained blind to her detachment. That disparity in recovery cuts deeper than the breakup itself. The cruelty also lies in the silence that follows. He craves answers, needs explanations, aches for closure. He wants to know when she stopped loving him, why she didn't tell him sooner, what he could have done differently. But most often, she won't give him those answers. Not because they don't exist, but because speaking them out loud would reopen the wound she's trying to seal for herself. For her, silence is a shield. For him, it is torture. He replays every moment in his mind, inventing scenarios, blaming himself for things he didn't even do. The lack of clarity chains him to an endless spiral of what-ifs, and the absence of words cuts deeper than any argument ever could. Silence is not neutral, it's a blade, as if that weren't enough. She projects joy in the aftermath, another layer of cruelty he struggles to endure. In the weeks after leaving, many women display a version of themselves that looks freer, happier, more alive. She laughs louder, posts pictures of her new life, and radiates an energy that suggests she is relieved to be rid of him. For the man who gave her his all, seeing this feels like being stabbed while still bleeding. It makes him question his worth, makes him feel disposable, makes him believe that his presence was never a source of happiness for her. Even if this projection of joy is partly a mask she wears to convince herself, to him it is unbearable. It looks like betrayal stacked upon betrayal, as though not only did she leave, but she is celebrating his absence. This is where the cruelty of timing becomes its sharpest. He is just beginning to drown, while she already knows how to swim. He is entering grief, while she is exiting it. He is wrecked by fresh wounds, while she carries only faint scars. That imbalance does not just break his heart. It warps his sense of reality. Because nothing feels harsher than discovering the person you would have built your life around has already begun living theirs without you. Sometimes the cruelty of her departure is not accidental at all, but deliberate. Many women, when they finally decide to leave, make themselves colder on purpose. They know that if they leave the door cracked even slightly, the man will chase, plead, and beg for another chance. He will hold on with everything in him because his love is still alive. To avoid that pull, she sharpens her words, hardens her expression, and exaggerates her indifference. To him, this feels like unnecessary brutality, as if the woman who once adored him has turned into someone determined to wound him. But to her, it is survival. If she shows even a flicker of softness, she fears she'll be pulled back into something she has already buried in her heart. This deliberate coldness often comes with words designed to cut deep. She might tell him she never loved him, or that she loved him but wasn't in love with him. She may dismiss years of shared intimacy with a sentence that makes it all sound meaningless. Most of the time, these words aren't the literal truth. They're rationalizations she has built to justify her exit. But in the moment, he cannot separate truth from cruelty. All he hears is the invalidation of everything he gave. Every kiss, every promise, every sacrifice suddenly feels like a lie because she presents it as something lesser than it was, and the pain of those words lingers. Echoing in his mind long after she has walked away, what makes this phase even more unbearable is the whiplash of transformation. He remembers the woman who once looked at him with tenderness, who laughed at his jokes, who stayed up late talking with him, as if nothing in the world mattered more. And then, almost overnight, she becomes unrecognizable. The softness vanishes. Her eyes, once warm, turn to stone. Her voice, once full of affection, now speaks with mechanical detachment. To him, it feels surreal, like living with a stranger in the same body as the woman he loved. The rapid shift doesn't just break his heart, it disorients his mind, making him question whether he ever truly knew her at all. For men, this kind of cold detachment feels worse than anger. Anger, at least, carries fire. It proves he still matters enough to provoke emotion. Indifference, however, feels like annihilation. It says not only that she no longer loves him, but that he no longer exists in her emotional world. He pours out apologies, promises, and pleas, hoping to stir something in her, but nothing changes. She does not flinch, she does not soften, and the more he reaches, the further she drifts. It is not hatred, it is absence. And that void is colder than fire could ever be. To him, it looks like cruelty, but to her it feels like necessity. Her emotions have shifted, and her loyalty shifts with them. What seems like calculation is often instinct. She no longer feels what she once did, so she no longer acts as she once did. To her, that makes sense. To him, it is betrayal. Because for men, consistency is the proof of love. For women, feelings are the proof. When the feelings die, she believes the love has died too. And in that difference lies the deepest cruelty. What felt eternal to him was only temporary to her. The deepest cruelty comes after she is gone, when he is left to live in the ruins of what once was. In the beginning, his pain is raw, sharp, and consuming. But what follows is something even darker, an emptiness that lingers long after the tears have dried. He wakes up in the same bed, but it feels colder. He walks through the same rooms, but they feel hollow. Every corner carries her ghost. The smell of her perfume on a jacket, the mug she used for coffee, the little thing she left behind, each one becomes a dagger. These remnants mock him, reminding him that she was real, yet making him feel like she was never truly his. He cannot escape her presence. He cannot hold on to her either. The cruelty of absence is that it forces him to live with questions that have no answers. He replays every memory in his mind, dissecting moments that once felt simple. Did she stop loving him when she smiled that last smile? Was her kiss already empty while he thought it was full of passion? Was every "I love you" genuine, or were some of them just echoes meant to keep him calm until she was ready to go? These questions eat at him because there is no way to know the truth. He is left chasing shadows, trying to reconstruct a story that has already been rewritten by her silence. The uncertainty becomes its own prison. One he cannot escape. He looks at her life from afar, often through the cruel lens of modern times social media. There she appears alive, radiant and free, as if shedding him was the best decision she'd ever made. The woman who once clung to his arm now stands laughing in photos, traveling, or perhaps already in the company of someone new. To him, this feels like salt in the wound, because he is still broken, still gasping for air, while she looks like she never drowned at all. The contrast is unbearable. He wonders if he ever mattered, if he was ever truly loved, or if she had simply been waiting for something or someone better to come along. This stage is where the loneliness digs in deepest. Nights are the hardest. He lies awake, remembering her breathing beside him. The way she curled into his chest, the rhythm of her heart beat against his. Now the silence is deafening, and the space beside him is a constant reminder of his loss. He imagines her sleeping peacefully elsewhere, perhaps in someone else's arms, and the thought guts him. It's not just jealousy, it's the realization that the intimacy that once belonged to him exclusively is now a memory he cannot reclaim. What he considered eternal was, to her, replaceable. That is the kind of truth that destroys a man from the inside. Yet the cruelest part of all is not her leaving. Not her silence, not her joy without him, is how easily he was forgotten. She moves on as if he never existed, as if the love that consumed his world was just a passing chapter in hers. He gave her his devotion, his loyalty, his future, but she treats it as something that can be folded neatly and left behind. He is left with scars, while she seems to carry none. And in that imbalance lies the final cruelty. Love for him was a promise. For her it was only a season. He believed in forever while she believed in until. And now he must live with the weight of that difference, a burden that lingers long after she is gone.